Okay, more consistent sunlight today, which is nice. No chance of rain by the looks of it. And what did I read today? There seems like recently there's been tons of news about police using drones. How about this one? Apparently in the Hong Kong area, it says HKPF launches drone patrol program for crime prevention. Funny enough, people here anyways, they would always say, okay, in places like Asia, for example, this is probably normal with the surveillance and stuff like that, but it's even happening like what, here in Canada as well when you think about it with drones. It says the Hong Kong Police Force have launched a pilot program called the Small Scale Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Operational Deployment to conduct automated and regular high altitude patrols for crime prevention using drones. Local media Wenwei Po reported on Wednesday. In the first phase, the program will be implemented in the Border District and the Kowloon West region for a period of 3 months, officially starting from Friday, Wenwei Po said. This is kind of a scary sentence here. It says the Global Times learned from the HKPF on Wednesday that the program is part of the police's efforts of actively promoting digital policing. This includes the use of automated drone hangars to pre-program flight paths and execute patrol missions autonomously, significantly improving patrol efficiency, the police told the Global Times in an emailed statement. Usually when you think of, for example, digital policing per se, you think of things, for example, people going online, getting censored and so forth, or in some places getting arrested for expressing certain views. But in this case, they're talking about drones and stuff flying around and monitoring everyone, I guess, frequently. Is there a danger with this? It says before every drone mission, they will have a comprehensive risk assessment. Surveillance will not cover the interior of private buildings or personal spaces, the police said. That's kind of interesting in that regard because here there's that controversy further east where the police want to use drones, for example, to monitor distracted driving, and that's the argument to my understanding, where they're using the drones, they can film what's on people's phones and so forth. So the argument would be, is that okay? But either way, this is happening everywhere in the world now, huh? How much is too much, or is it just it's more efficient, so why not? And in terms of, I guess, drones, more, I guess, war news, huh? How about this one? It says Moscow airports temporarily halt flights amid drone attacks. 3 of Moscow's 4 airports temporarily suspended flights Wednesday as Ukrainian drones targeted the Russian capital. Authorities said Domodedovo and Zhukovsky airports halted both inbound and outbound flights, while Sheremetyevo suspended arrivals but allowed some departures on a case-by-case basis. The restrictions were introduced as Moscow's mayor Sergei Sobyanin said air defenses downed 3 drones on approach to the city. I know there's a lot of aviation incidents in recent times making people uneasy about traveling through air. How about with stuff like this? Would you actually fly during times like these? And there was a lot of news today where apparently in Ontario and Quebec there was a major outage in terms of Bell services. They handle, for example, things like cell phone services and all that. And it says here, we were stuck. Bell says services restored after widespread outage hits Ontario, Quebec. Kind of reminds me of that other story I read the other day, the one where Spain lost all their services. You can imagine how much chaos it creates. It says it was anything but business as usual for hundreds of thousands of Bell customers Wednesday morning. Starting at around 9 a.m., customers across Ontario, Quebec, and parts of Atlantic Canada reported internet and cellular service outages, just as they were logging on for work or getting started with their day. Nearly 140,000 Bell users across the country said they had experienced issues connecting to the internet or accessing their account at the peak of the outage just after 9 a.m. And as I mentioned, of course, anyone that required things like internet access, for example, they couldn't get anything done. And it reminds me how before they had that Rogers outage where the services went down everywhere, and that actually created so much chaos because it's not just, for example, people phoning others on their phone. It could be buildings that actually rely on their services to actually get in. People couldn't do that. Banks, for example, all the ATMs, they actually didn't work because the services are down. Too much chaos in these cases when there's not a good form of backup, because they even mentioned here too, some people just went with an old traditional landline to start phoning people, and that worked perfectly fine. But are we actually prepared if everyone's all digital and there's no type of backup in case of stuff like this? And then there's a story going around recently a lot talking about, I guess, ostriches that are going to be culled. I'm wondering, what is this all about? I've heard of it before, but I never really dived into it too much. It says here, ahead of ostrich cull, RCMP warned BC farm protesters of possible arrests. RCMP liaison officers have visited a British Columbia ostrich farm to prepare for potential arrest at the property where protesters are trying to prevent a cull of about 400 birds ordered by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So apparently they're live streaming the whole situation too, and you're wondering what the heck is going on. It says the Food Inspection Agency ordered the birds destroyed in December after an avian flu outbreak that killed dozens of ostriches, and a federal court judge recently upheld the decision. The agency says Saturday that under the Health of Animals Act, if an owner refuses to meet the depopulation requirements, it could move forward itself or use a third-party contractor and potentially withhold part or all compensations from the owners. The court decision says the farm could be compensated up to $3,000 per ostrich, potentially representing a payout of about $1.2 million if all are culled. So on a surface level, even I was wondering if that is the case, then what's the issue per se? Apparently some people believe that the government is stepping out of the line and not being, I guess, transparent about what is really going on. Some people are claiming that these ostriches have developed, let's just say, quote, herd immunity to the H5N1 virus, and that the birds are valuable for research. There was all these videos and stuff online on how people were making masks out of, I guess, parts of the ostriches because of this, of the immunity that they developed. So if that is true anyways, then obviously people are saying you shouldn't just kill them all and that they're just doing that for the sake of procedure per se. But either way, whatever the reason is, that's a lot of ostriches. See you guys later.